You want to read Earth X. Earth X is a graphic novel by Alex Ross and Jim Krueger that depicts a dystopian future for the Marvel Universe circa roughly 1999. It also just so happens to be the subject of my next comic book club video. Go check them out, link in the doobly-doo. Now, this story is dense, and I mean f***ing dense. There is 1,000 different plot points, all that are extremely complicated, that tell the entire history of the Marvel Universe from a different point of view, and on top of that, it is a mystery. So, it became extremely hard to write the synopsis in my usual comic book club style. That is where this video comes in. This video will not be a synopsis of the plot of Earth X, but more so a explanation of the events that happen before the plot of Earth X. Think of this more as a history lesson for the world of Earth X. How many times have I said Earth X within this video so far? Put a counter on the screen, mate. Anyway, this video serves as that so that we can all be up to date on all of the events that happened before the plot, so that when I actually make the comic book club video that has the story in it, we don't need to jump back to a flashback or a world explanation or a different perspective on a character's origin every 5 seconds. Then, when I do actually make the comic book club video, that one will actually have the plot of the book that is original to the book. However, this does mean that the main mystery behind Earth X, the driving force behind the plot for a good majority of it, will be ruined by watching this video. So, if you do want to go into Earth X blind, then I suggest that you go and pick it up at your local library, or perhaps maybe pick it up at a local comic shop and support the industry. So with all that out of the way, Earth X is an extremely complicated book with a lot of extremely heady concepts that would be extremely hard to explain in chronological order. So I am going to try and list them here so that maybe we can get through this just the eensy-beensy teeniest little bit faster. First in line, the Celestials. The Celestials are a race of beings from a previous iteration of the universe which they destroyed through overpopulation. They are a godlike species that have forcefully evolved past what most sentient beings would find comprehensible, and as a result, they are unable to reproduce naturally. They get around this by impregnating planets with a portion of their essence, forming a sort of embryo, which grows over thousands of years within a planet. The embryo is sustained by a large deposit of vibranium placed onto the planet in some way by the Celestials that, over an equal amount of time, will start to act as a cancer for the planet, converting organic material into energy and sustenance for the embryo within. Galactus. Galactus is also a survivor from that previous iteration of the universe. When he was reborn into the current iteration, he was created to be a sort of, we'll call it an anti-celestial. He sustains himself on the life force of celestial embryos as a way to combat the overpopulation problem that the Celestials posed in the previous universe. However, as he sustains himself on the celestial embryos, he does destroy the planets that they are within. The Watchers. The Watchers are an ancient race of aliens that have been enslaved by the Celestials. At the birth of the universe, a single Watcher witnessed the birth of Galactus, but did nothing to stop it. A crime that the Celestials took to heart, seeing as Galactus essentially drinks their kids. As a result, they were enslaved by the Celestials to watch over planets that held celestial embryos and to ensure the birth of those embryos. Celestial seeds. Celestial seeds are genetic coding placed into a planet's native species that essentially allows them to evolve and progress faster to better help serve the Celestials, as well as granting them, eventually, the capacity for mutation, so that they can better protect their own celestial embryos. These seeds are germinated over time, if not by the Celestials themselves, then usually through radiation of some kind, most often through proximity to vibranium. However, they can be germinated through a variety of means. These seeds also would manipulate the actions of individuals to better help serve the Celestials, with certain individuals being more important than others to the growth, or more so, the protection of the embryo. The extent to which individual actions are controlled by the Celestial seed is currently unknown. Tiers of mutation. Mutations are caused by the Celestial seed as it germinates within a species. Each tier, over time, eventually leads into the next as a species evolves, a domino effect of one becoming the other. These mutations occur gradually over time, and can be set off by a vast number of things. However, it is usually the result of radiation of some kind. The radiation usually comes from the vibranium implanted by the Celestials, but was rapidly sped up on Earth as a result of World War II. The first tier is individual mutation. Depending on the situation that caused the celestial seed to germinate, an individual is granted a unique mutation relative to that situation. A gamma bomb goes off in your face, it's gonna make you the Hulk. Super soldier serum makes you a super soldier. A radioactive spider bite makes you a spider person, etc. Most superheroes with powers fall into this category, as well as literally all of the X-Men. The second tier is holistic mutation. An entire species evolves to have a single ability and similar appearance, be that through the mixing of all the other abilities granted over time, or the bestowing of a single ability to an entire populace. Aliens like the Skrull, who are all able to shapeshift and all look vaguely similar to one another, is in their second tier. The third tier is a bit stranger. The third tier causes the species to completely lose their identity, having their abilities and appearance completely determined by the belief of another species. If it is believed that a species in its third tier of mutation looks a certain way, it will look that way. If it is believed that they can do something, they can do that thing. If it is believed that they are some sort of extraordinary being, they become that being. The Asgardians and the pantheon of Greek gods in Marvel are examples of this third tier of mutation. The hosts. The celestial hosts refer to the 4 times that Earth has been visited by the Celestials. The first host implanted the celestial embryo and carved out a chunk of the Earth to form the moon so that the Earth's watcher, Uatu, had a place to watch from. This process wiped out the dinosaurs, and would later be mistaken as a meteor by mankind. The first host also genetically altered a portion of Earth's inhabitants, otherwise known as early humans, to act as sort of antibodies against potential outside threats to the embryo. The first iteration was programmed too violently, and almost immediately rebelled against the Celestials, later being called the Deviants, and would go on to form many of early man's myths about demons and devils. The second iteration was programmed to combat the Deviants, but was programmed too perfectly, being known as the Eternals, and forming many of man's myths of gods. The first host would also implant the rest of mankind with the celestial seed, so that they could eventually take the place of the Eternals and the Deviants as the embryo's protectors when the two wiped each other out. Regardless of all of this meddling, nearly 25,000 years ago, the Deviants were able to conquer the entire Earth and enslave early man. The second host came during this reign and wiped out most of the Deviants, in the process also sinking Atlantis. At some point, various species of aliens started to appear on Earth. These beings were in their third tier of mutation, and upon being discovered by early man, were mistaken for the Asgardian gods, and as such, became like those gods that they were believed to be. The third host would appear and strike a deal with these gods that they would not interfere with the celestial plan. Another group of aliens also arrived on Earth, these being the Kree. Having never been manipulated by the Celestials, the Kree forcefully germinated the seeds of a collection of humans using something called the Terrigen Mist, creating the group known as the Inhumans in hopes to use them as weapons against the Kree's enemies, the Skrulls. The Inhumans instead rebelled against their creators and hid themselves in the hidden city of Attilan on Earth. In the 20th century, mutations began to appear at an increasingly fast rate thanks to World War II. Namor the Submariner being the first example of a mutation being triggered through natural means, and Captain America being the first example of humans triggering their own seeds themselves. This is also the explanation given as to why mutants are born, even though they have not encountered an event to germinate their celestial seed. The world is simply more irradiated after World War II and the nuclear age, so some humans simply have their seeds germinated naturally now. The fourth host visited Earth roughly around the time of the creation of Adam Warlock, which would be roughly around 1967. The host did not appear to anybody, but it deemed that things were going according to plan. So, For the most part, with the exception of all the super secret celestial meddling that no one knows about, the Earth of Earth X progressed in an almost identical fashion to that of our own Marvel Universe after the third host, and all the way up until just before the appearance of Onslaught. Don't ask, he's complicated. Shit was normal until about 1995, we'll just say that. However, after that, a lot of pretty big events happened, and the order that they happened in can sometimes be pretty up in the air. So, in no particular order, on Earth X, Captain America was asked to be president by the American people, but declined, as in his mind, he was supposed to represent the American dream, not a specific generation of American citizens. At some point, the Deviants were defeated and the Eternals just left Earth entirely. America started using the Negative Zone, an antimatter dimension discovered by Reed Richards, as a dumping ground for basically everything it didn't want: toxic waste, pollutants, undesirables, that sort of thing. However, when legislation was proposed that would expel all known mutants into the Negative Zone, bigots gonna bigot, Reed Richards destroyed all portals to access it. Hoping to potentially reunite the world after taking away their universal dumping ground, Reed began attempting to solve the energy crisis using vibranium. This was done by converting matter into sound waves using the metal that would then be received and converted back into power around the world. Unaware of the fact that Galactus was essentially acting as birth control for the Celestials, Reed Richards turned the Devourer of Planets into a star, don't ask how, I don't know, to save a planet from his consumption. In Atalan, the nation of Inhumans grew tired of being forced to live within the city limits and left the secret city en masse. Black Bolt, king of the Inhumans, knew that the Inhumans would die outside of the city, either by man's bigotry towards what they perceived as mutants, or the pollutants in the air that they were never exposed to inside the hidden city. So, to ensure the survival of his people, Black Bolt blinded Uatu the Watcher so that he would not witness what he was about to do, and released the Terrigen Mists into Earth's atmosphere, activating every human's celestial seed and transforming every human on Earth into Inhumans. Being the only sentient being that knew what he had done, he took his royal family and exiled themselves, himself included, into space. Those who were mutated by the Terrigen Mist began aging at a different rate to those who had mutated before Black Bolt's actions, as well as completely losing the ability to procreate. The beacon for Reed Richards' universal power solution explodes in a laboratory accident. While not being the cause of the mutations around the world, the only person who would know that is Black Bolt, who is off-world, causing Reed Richards to theorize that he actually mutated all of humanity. The Kree-Skrull War ends, with both sides being reduced to near extinction, and the remains of both species now live on Earth, hiding amongst the crowds of mutants. Humanity, being universally mutated, all but eradicates mutant bigotry, seeing as now everyone is mutated and it is impossible to know who to point that hate towards. With all of the world now possessing superpowers, humanity turned to those that had them the longest to lead them, as they felt that they were the most suited to help lead humanity through coming to terms with their newfound abilities. With the energy crisis now resolved, and labor now being easily handled by people with mutations, food shortages became the most dangerous reality for the people of Earth. The entire global economy changed, and food became the biggest export of every nation. Russia took to grain and agriculture, Britain to the transport of Russian spoils, and America looked to the ocean for its bounty of fish. Enraged by America's plundering of his nation for their food, and after being denied entry to a UN conference on the worldwide food shortage, Namor the Submariner teamed up with Dr. Doom to attack said UN conference. In the battle, Namor kills the Human Torch in front of Franklin Richards, who curses Namor to burn forever, half of his body lighting on fire whenever he leaves the water. In a fit of rage, Sue Storm then attacks Dr. Doom. The fight claiming both of their lives. With Latveria, Dr. Doom's nation that he is the dictator of, now having no ruler, and Reed Richards being consumed by grief after the loss of his wife, brother, and perceived mutation of humankind, Reed dons Dr. Doom's old armor and poses as the dictator as a form of self-imposed exile, punishment, and to keep the peace around the world. Norman Osborn becomes president of the United States by essentially just buying his way into office. Nobody really cares. And Norman moves his headquarters from the White House to New York. The Avengers, Ant-Man, Wasp, Hawkeye, Quicksilver, and the Scarlet Witch, all die in a fight with Ultron, with the sole exception being the Vision and Tony Stark. Stark builds androids with the personalities of his fallen comrades to stand in as the Iron Avengers, but personally retreats into his workshop to seal himself away from whatever had mutated humankind. He and the Iron Avengers essentially act as President Osborn's personal attack force. Peter Parker quits being Spider-Man, as in a world where everyone has superpowers, nobody really needs saving anymore. His daughter, May, successfully bonds with the Venom symbiote to take his place as Spider-Woman against his wishes. Hydra is now an alien parasite that grants its members inner peace in exchange for surrendering their bodies to it. Think the flower from The Man Who Has Everything if the person who put it on could also now control your body. A child is born with the ability to psychically control any sentient being. Upon his birth, every psychic and telepath on Earth dies from the mental strain. This mutant would later take the name of the Skull, and will be addressed in the actual video. And that, dear viewer, is the history of the world of Earth X. And if you want to see what happens in this world, how all of these various plot threads get wrapped up, and how the story and the plot actually play out, then be sure to watch the Comic Book Club video when it actually comes out. And hey, if you enjoyed this style of video, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll make more where I explain complicated books with dense as hell worlds. Now, with all that out of the way, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the Comic Book Club video on Earth X when it comes out, and I will see you guys next time. And that is going to be it for this month. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for your patience. I just want to take a moment to thank all of my lovely, lovely patrons over on Patreon. Adam Laird, Amanda Barnstead, Andra Lanowitz, Bill Bro, Brandon Bilbrey, Brandon Laney, Brian Van Vorst, Carol Cowett, Christopher Bosgard, Danny Walker, Dark Nimbus, Dee Dee, Dominic Viculo, Dragonfang, Elizabeth Rush, Gamer Zoom, Gas Boss Gatelight Girl Keep, Have a Heart Tin Man, Jacob Safel, Jeffrey Aviles, Jeremy Strickland, Caitlin Norman, Kat Q, Kathy Coker, KJ Wilson, Ma Goo, Max Baker, Nixie Shimo, Pandora A, Pinchy Mugray, Raymond Villasana, Righteous Duke, Ricky Tiki Davi, Shadow Spike, Simply Smithy Jr., Silver Bullets 23, Tangled Web, The Brain Teaser, The Holy Kuroda, Thomas Randolph, Toybox, TS Famder, and Wofu Badge 2, and all of my other lovely, lovely, lovely patrons. And if you too would like your name read out at the end of every single YouTube video I do on this channel, as well as having the ability to vote on new episodes of the Comic Book Club as they come out, feel free to hop on over to my Patreon and donate at least $15 or more. Or hey, if that's not an option, even $1 helps. Sweet God, that took so long. I can't even tell you why that took so long. It just took forever. I am so sorry that this 15-minute little short video that was supposed to be like a prelude to the Comic Book Club ended up taking so long to get out. I promise you, I am currently right now writing the Comic Book Club for Earth X right now. I'm hoping to get it out in the next month and not have to wait 2 more months for a little 15-minute video. So thank you guys so much for your patience. Honestly, it is extremely comforting that I know you guys are still going to be here, so thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that it makes sense, honestly. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for your patience, and I will see you guys next time.